The seed of the Weston Noble Alumni Choir was planted in 2004. Myron Heaton, himself a Nordic alumnus and the director of a chorale in Las Vegas, invited Weston to guest conduct a tour of his group set for 2006. The two planned the tour throughout 2005, the same year Weston retired, and determined they needed a bigger choir than Heaton's to handle the literature they had chosen.
Myron just called one day and said, "Do you suppose any Nordic people would like to go?" And I opened it up and yes.
About 24 Nordic alumni joined Heaton's chorale for that tour, and at the end, they weren't willing to let it go.
So all of us Nordic people got together for breakfast and we sat around some tables and, you know, why can't we do something like this on the campus at Luther?
A steering committee organized, met with officers and staff at the college, and held a reunion choir in 2007 with 83 singers attending. The choir met every year after that, returning to Europe in 2010. By now, these were becoming family events for Weston.
I know that the specialness of that, when we went to Europe and the three Noble brothers were there, and in California, I mean, that was incredibly special to him.
In 2012, the alumni choir went to California, kicking off a tour down the coast with a concert at the chapel at Yosemite National Park.
They don't really have much of a congregation because it's all tourists that float through there, so we had no idea. But it was just such a wonderful, pleasant surprise. That church gradually filled up throughout the evening. The weather was perfect. There was just something magical about this little old chapel.
The next year, in 2013, on a guest conducting trip to Korea, Weston took off his shoes in his hotel room, slipped, and fell.
And the result of that was he fractured his pelvis in 3 spots.
Weston was hospitalized for more than 30 days in Korea during the autumn of 2013. Debbie Burns was president of the alumni choir at the time.
It was a little scary trying to lead a group that was so concerned and so loving and wanted to do for him, but we weren't sure how to do, what to do, how to show him our love and our concern and yet respect him.
The choir raised funds among its members and friends for Weston's travel and medical expenses. Doctors described his recovery from the fall as nothing short of miraculous, barely slowed by a small heart attack and then a minor stroke. In 2014, the Weston Noble Alumni Choir held concerts in Austin, Minnesota and Decorah, and then Weston decided the next year, 2015, would be the last week-long event.
He wanted to make sure that everyone had the opportunity to know this is the last one. Also to get ready for it to be the last one, I think. And it was more opportunity to look forward to it, to choose special music. And I think it, you know, as we have seen now, it really worked very well.
And I think it was just sort of that special sort of closing of this experience for all of us, and we wanted to share it with the people that we've come to know and love, and you know, just sort of end out the summer in a beautiful kind of way.
The head of school and I were having a conversation. He was originally from Kansas, and we established early on that he had had Weston for his Kansas All-State experience. So when I mentioned that I'd like to do this, he said, "Well, absolutely, you have to go."
It is my first time. My mom's been here several times, but this is when we heard it was the last one. Then I figured I better get here.
In the end, more than 130 people came from 27 states and 4 countries. At least 9 families had more than one member represented: siblings, cousins, parents, children. Jane Voller-Roetz, 2 of her sisters, and her dad all came.
None of us overlapped, and so we never got to sing together. And we're so spread out, we didn't often get to come together even at homecoming. So,
but it was almost a spontaneous decision. You knew that I would be coming. That's just what I do. And I've lusted after having my children come and be a part of this, because I want them to share in that same experience that you and I have had that over the several years we've been together. Weston is so much a part of the fabric of our family discussions, our storytelling. They often revolve around stories with Weston because we've all had a shared experience with traveling with him, of telling stories with him, and loving him.
And I think it just has really struck me the distribution of people from all of these years that are here. From 1949 up until Tyler, who's 2013 and a dear friend of my son's. They were classmates. They sang next to each other in Nordic.
The first time that I stepped into the choir last summer as a participant, it was a little disconcerting to be the youngest person by 10 years or whatever it was. But at the same time, it was really, I think, better for me than for everyone else to be able to connect with all these people who had been at Luther before I had, and to hear their stories and their memories, and to get a sense of what it was like to be there during the 40s, 50s, 60s.
About 4 years ago, I came to this choir, alumni choir, as a guest with my mom to watch Weston conduct the rehearsals and just see what was happening. And as a joke, they said they were down a tenor, so they asked if I could sing, and I said yeah, and then I was part of the group.
Gunnar was the youngest member of the Weston Noble Alumni Choir. Jerry Moe began singing in the Luther Choir 2 years before Weston took the helm. He has attended 6 alumni choir reunions.
Well, I just love to sing, and I love the Nordic tradition, and love to come back to Luther College. It's a great privilege to come back. Especially, I didn't want to miss this last one. And of course, it's wonderful to be under Weston again.
With the reunion grew a few social traditions. An annual visit to Mabes for pizza and stories outgrew the restaurant, becoming a Mabes and ice cream social.
We went to De Novo Barn and laughed a lot and cried a little bit and ate so much pizza.
Miss Otis regrets she's unable to lunch today, Madam.
Jerry Moe was much beloved among alumni choir members for his graceful spirit, his warm bass voice, and his Irish songs at the annual Follies Variety Show, coordinated by Jane Henderson.
I think about weaving something together that maybe starts out with some colors and then another color comes in, and that's trying to make a connection somehow or another, whether it's style of music or speed of music or tempo, or now we need a story and that story is going to lead us to this song. I enjoy doing that, trying to find those little things that weave it together.
Long before Jane was weaving the Follies program, Weston was developing the program for the 2015 event. The Alumni Choir Board had surveyed members for ideas for an evening of Nordic favorites. With those ideas in hand, Weston began to choose.
First of all, did I know the piece really well? And secondly, could I build a program around those selections?
The choir was joined this last year by Luther Assistant Professor of Music and Nordic alumnus Andrew Last.
First and foremost, it's a complete honor. There's a little bit of pressure that goes along with it, not because he would ever say or do anything to intimidate me as a conductor, but I think it comes from more of a place of wanting to honor what he's done and the tradition that he's done, and it's truly been an honor to be involved in this organization. I think I still get a little bit nervous whenever I stand and conduct next to him, but he's a wonderful, warm spirit and incredibly encouraging to me.
I was surprised how many pieces I hadn't done. And that was exciting because, there were some that were familiar, and that was nice because it's a lot of music to learn. My favorite right now is the one that Jane did today, the Turn, 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 which is just lovely and unexpected.
There is a season, turn, and a time to every purpose. So we did it on that tour in 2006. On that tour, John was a member of Myron Heaton's chorale, and he brought his 12-string. He didn't use a 12-string, and played with me on tour.
Some of the numbers we're doing, we did years ago when I was in choir. That's especially fun, and just all the singers are so good that it makes it very special.
My first rehearsal, you know, I walked in just like starstruck. There's Mr. Noble, there's all these junior and senior Nordic alums that I looked up to and wanted to, you know, and the very first rehearsal that we did was for the former things, you know, and just right away, this incredible experience, right away in the first 10 minutes. And I was hooked ever since.
And as we listen to other colleagues, the music takes everybody down different paths, spiritual paths, emotional paths, and it speaks deeply to each one of us, I think. To me, it does.
And for me, it's the quality of the singers that are here and listening to the product that comes out.
And it's hard for people to perhaps understand, and it's hard perhaps for us to articulate how powerful and holy that we're not just individual people singing. We are singing with one voice, and that in the power of that, it is organic, it takes a life of its own, and we are part of something amazing.
It's about singing with Weston and having do-overs in life, which most people don't get to do. And so we're very blessed in that regard. But it's also the community and the friendships that we've made that we wouldn't have had any other way.
Weston represents a generation of distinguished choral directors that, if I'm not mistaken, he's probably the last one that we have left in that legacy of choral directors. The legacy cannot just be about the music and the kind of pieces that they want to do, but it needs to be about the conversation that you have with the people you're hoping to inspire. We are his family and we are his children, not because of him and not because he wanted it to be that way, but because it came organically.
Weston's idea of vulnerability and emotion in music is so important to choral music in general, but especially within today's Lutheran choral tradition.
One day I finally asked this burning question I'd had, and I said, what do you think is the single thing that's been the key to your success? He said, discipline. He comes home from every rehearsal and in a journal, black the things that he did that worked, red the things he tried that didn't work, ideas for next time, spiritual discipline, devotions. I think people think it's magic. It is not magic. He's brilliant. It's a great, great mind, and it's a great musicality. It's not just the charisma or the spirit. How do we carry this on? I know we have to carry the load with joy, because that's what he taught us.